All right, everyone. Before we start today, I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon members as usual. These are the people that help financially support the show so we can continue to let it go and grow. It means more than anything to me that these people decided to come out of pocket to contribute. It ain't free to make this stuff, even though it's free for you to listen to it. So these people choose to support it, and it means the world to me. If you're interested in checking it out, go to patreon.com/bigtruth. There's 4 different levels of support that you can engage in, and they all come with their own little unique features and benefits and things of that nature. So check it out, patreon.com/bigtruth. Now, if you need motorcycle parts and you have, whether it's a stock bike or a cafe racer or a chopper or a desert sled, whatever it is you need to check out Old Bike Bond at oldbikebond.com or on Instagram at Old Bike Bond. And that's Bond, B-A-R-N. Excuse the Boston accent. Sometimes I can't turn it down, and then I realize that 90% of the country can't understand what I'm saying half the time. But yeah, oldbikebarn.com. Especially if you got an old Japanese bike, they got some of the rare stuff that not a lot of people have for your old XS 650 or so CB 500 or whatever. So check them out, oldbikebarn.com. If you have issues with sleeping or inflammation or anxiety, and you've been interested in checking out CBD oil, but you don't want to get some garbage at the bodega, you need to check out Cradle Lake Clear at cradlelakeclear.com. Just go to their website and they show you the whole process of how their organic CBD is made, and it's high quality, high tested, vetted stuff. Check them out, cradlelakeclear.com. If you look like you are, if your dingus looks like it's a stand-in or like doing some 70s porn cosplay, you need to check out Manscaped at manscaped.com. They got a ball and genital area razor called the Lawnmower 3. Actually, they're on the 4.0. I'm sorry, it's Lawnmower 4.0. They got these special ceramic blades, so it keeps everything nice and clean down there with no nicks or scrapes or cuts. And if you use the promo code BigTruth at checkout, you get 20% off your order and free shipping. So check them out, manscaped.com. They got all kinds of men's grooming products. Manscaped.com. Use the promo code BigTruth at checkout. You get 20% off your order. And lest I forget, if you use the promo code BigTruth at Cradle Lake Clear, you get 20% off your order there. So make sure you use that. Now, if you find yourself in the unfortunate situation where you've been in a motorcycle accident, you 100% need to get in touch with Law Tigers at lawtigers.com. They are a motorcycle related injury law firm that was founded by riders for riders, and all they do is motorcycle injury cases, and they have offices nationwide. So check them out, lawtigers.com, or if you go on Facebook and type in Law Tigers plus your state, you can get in touch with one of the local offices that way. So if you live in Minnesota, type in Law Tigers Minnesota, and you get the Minnesota office. If you live in Massachusetts, type in Law Tigers Massachusetts, you get that. You understand where we're going with that. If you are looking for some new clothing, check out Omerta at omertamia.com. I'm going to spell that because it might not be evident to you unless you're of Italian lineage, and you know about the code of silence. omertamia.com, or on Instagram and all the social medias at Omertamia. They got whatever you need: hoodies, t-shirts, freaking, it's fall's coming here, so you might need a jacket or a scarf, socks, whatever it is. Check them out, omertamia.com, the most legit and real streetwear brand there is out there. Use the promo code BigTruth at checkout there, get 20% off as well. Saving you 20% everywhere, man. Just call me Mr. 20%. Now, if you're into weird shit like the occult or like serial killers, or you got a little dark side to you, but you're also into motorcycles and choppers and custom vans and, boogie vans and, things like that. Maybe you like some stoner doom rock and psychedelics and shit like that. You need to check out Heavy at heavy.bigcartel.com, streetwear brand. And they got, and also purveyor of nefarious wares by my man Zach Doom. Check them out, heavy.bigcartel.com, or on Instagram at Heavy Clothing. And if you want more information, if you're into motorcycling and riding or building custom bikes, anything of that nature, you need to check out Chop Cult, the biggest information clearinghouse out there for motorcycle related news, and biggest online message board system for that. You go on, you can check out, whatever topic you're interested in. Say you only want to look about stuff about British bikes, you can find a British bike forum. If you want American choppers or whatever it is, I guarantee they got a forum for it. Also, they got an online swap meet where you can buy, sell, and trade pots. And they also got an events page where you can find out about motorcycle related events all across the world, broken up by state, region, wherever, date. You can find out what's happening on November 4th all across the world, right? In regards to motorcycle events. So check it out, absolutely free, chopcult.com, or on all the social medias, simply at ChopCult. Give them a follow and get connected. If you don't know, if you're into punk, hardcore metal, things like that, then you already know about Pitchfork. And if you don't, you've been under a rock, and you need to crawl out of that rock, look into the sun, let the sun rays give you some vitamins, nourish yourself, and go check out pitchforkny.com. They got all kinds of clothing. They're a record label as well. They're putting out all these special edition records. They just put out another New York hardcore compilation LP. So check them out, pitchforkny.com. If you need more motorcycle parts, or you live in New England and you need some motorcycle service or customization, you need to check out my shop, Choppahead, at choppahead.com, spelt in the most masshole of ways, which is CHOPPAHEAD. We got parts and swag and whatnot, and riding gear for sale online, helmets, whatever it is you need, gloves. We got all kinds of t-shirts, the shop shirts and whatnot. But more importantly, whatever part you need for your motorcycle, we either have it or can get it. So hit us up if you don't see it online. But even more important than that, we're a brick and mortar shop, so you can come in and we're full service. So whether you need an oil change or a full custom chopper built or anything in between, we do it. Audio for your bagger, speed work, performance work, whatever. Hit us up, choppahead.com, 508-995-6764. Email me at truth@choppahead if you have any questions or anything. And last but not least, check out the website for the podcast here at bigtruthpodcast.com. Every episode's up there. And wherever you listen to this, whether it's on iTunes or Apple or Android or Stitcher or YouTube or, Spotify, anywhere this podcast is available, and it's available pretty much anywhere, please give it a like or a review or stars or whatever it is that they got on that specific system. That way we can keep this thing going on YouTube or wherever they allow it. Leave comments, get engaged, man, so we can spread this thing. And without further ado, let me stop talking here so we can get into today's episode right now.
Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Yes, once again, we have liftoff. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Big Truth Podcast. And today I'm stoked to have my man Tad, the diet coach, on. And if you don't know Tad, he's an IFBB pro, recently retired IFBB pro bodybuilder. He's also been a judge. He's a judge for the IFBB. He's a trainer, a nutritionist, a diet coach, a podcast host, a whole litany of things. He's a man of many hats, a true Renaissance man. And that's why I'm stoked to have him on. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Tad, what's happening, man?
Hey, Truth. How you doing, my friend? Yes. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, man. And you're in beautiful, balmy Arizona, and I'm actually it's pretty balmy here tonight too. It's one of those humid days. It doesn't get super hot now this time of year up in Massachusetts, but it's still it's probably like 75, but humid. And that's what sucks. I miss the dry heat of Arizona, man. It was always beautiful out there.
Oh man, well, I've lived out in Pittsburgh. I've lived in Baltimore. I've lived in Chicago. And I've also lived, like, of course, I was born in California, Southern California. I lived in Oregon. I went to school in Oregon. And I can tell you that I do not like living on the East Coast. It's too cold, man.
Well, it's like
summertime is great.
Yeah.
But everything else sucks for me.
So like I'm like a more like temperate, moderate guy. Like I like fall and like spring. You know, like those days where it's like
Right.
80 degrees or 75 degrees and no humidity. I live for the like 3 weeks of the year that we have that are like that.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, well, it's like
I don't know,
Flagstaff. Flagstaff was a good summer. Flagstaff's like 80 and no humidity. You know, I remember that.
I live in Tempe.
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's pretty like right now. I believe it's like, what is it, like 100 degrees a day, something like that. Yes, about 100 degrees, which really is cool enough. Like cool enough. 115. And when I first moved here 2 years ago, people were like, "Oh, do you know how hot it gets in the summers, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. I fucking grew up in Vegas. I want that shit.
Yeah,
I want to." Well, I like the dry heat, but the only thing that would be better would probably be Hawaii. That's where I'll probably end up.
Hawaii's beautiful. I only went once. I went to Maui, and I was like, man, if it wasn't such a long flight, I'd be coming back here more often.
Well, I'm part Aboriginal Hawaiian, so my father was Japanese and Hawaiian.
Oh, okay.
And so part of me really resonates whenever I go to Hawaii. That part of me, I could just feel it resonate with me with the ocean. I just want to be in the ocean. I want to be out there. I just love the island life. The people, everybody's so nice. I like the idea of the spirit of aloha, which is, most people think of aloha. I'm not sure if you know this. Most people think of aloha as a greeting, but actually it means, there's a bit more of a meaning to that. My favorite meaning to aloha is what's mine is yours.
That's
so
nice.
it's really like a way to greet people. Like an island culture, traditionally, you kind of have to be friends with everybody. You kind of can't not like people.
Yeah.
Because that might be the only motherfucker fishing on the island, right? Catching all the fish for everybody. Be nice to him, or he might be the only guy making shoes or whatever it is. So everyone has to work together. So actually, I really like that movie Moana. They made it. There's a song in the beginning and he sings about this. And man, maybe I'm mushy, but when I took my daughter to that movie a couple years ago. I'm sitting there in the eyes, I'm fucking in tears and shit because I'm like, because it's touching me, man. Like I'm like, that's the way we should all be living.
Yeah,
we should be living with this kid that he says this one line. He says it's a song. And he says, her father sings it, and he's talking about her becoming the next tribal leader, and he's explaining how they live. And it's everything that we do, we work and we play, everything we do, we share.
Yeah.
Because when you live on an island, you have to. You can't be selfish bastards like we are here in the States. when you really live on an island. But I get it. But anyway, that's my next destination. When I retire, I'll probably go out there and live there. I'll still do what I do. Well, that's part of my next destination. Because I got to get there, man. I gotta live there near the ocean.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful out there, and everything you said. I was the same experience for me, man. People were cool. It was just like a nice, relaxing vibe, and it was just a good time. And I'm like surprised by like some of the islands. Like real estate isn't that expensive there. It's just everything else is expensive. You know what I mean? But like you can get a little place for not that much.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, you know what expense is all about. Like if you look at prices in New York, I think still New York ranks out at the most expensive place to have to live in the United States.
But I don't doubt it. That or San Francisco.
Hawaii, I've been checked recently because California has been. I mean, I was born in Southern California, but I wouldn't go back there. I wouldn't go back. I would go back to visit, but not to live. I wouldn't. Yeah. So mismanaged, and I really don't like. All this crap they were trying to do. There was a huge exodus of people from the state. I think it was like 60,000 people a month were leaving at some point, and they were coming here to Arizona and to Texas. Because these places still and it's still reasonably affordable to live. But man, I'm telling you, man, for anybody who wants to move here, I would tell them, look around because these people are coming and it's driving all the real estate prices up. It's good for people like me who own homes, but I don't want to sell my home because then I got to buy it. I got to buy another one.
Yeah.
It's going to cost me more money. it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's similar here because I live a little bit south of the city, and I used to live right in Boston, but now I'm like about 40 minutes south, and I'm actually in like a little wooded town, and everyone left Boston too and like spread out through the rest of Massachusetts and blew up all the real estate and even like the smaller towns outside of the city, you know what I mean? And the same thing, like Massachusetts fled to Western Mass and Southern Mass and into like Maine and New Hampshire, like the same way Californians fled to Texas and Arizona. And I know about that Arizona shit, man, because I've always like I lived there in the mid 90s, and I've always been like monitoring real estate because I'm like, I want to buy something in Arizona someday. And I used to get listings from one of the realtors out there, and I used to laugh because I'd be like, just show me everything under $100,000 in Tucson or whatever. And I'd get like 10, 15 pages. Like, I can't even get through all this stuff, like 500 listings, and that doesn't exist anymore, you know?
And I never, if you got it.
yeah. If I would have got in then, but you know, I'm a dummy. Yeah, I didn't do it.
So I'll tell you, my home, like I bought my house here when I moved here 2 years ago. I mean, literally 23 months ago. Yeah. I bought this house in October of 2 years ago, and I did one major improvement. I put some solar panels on it, which usually increases the value by they said by 11%. Yeah. That's the average. I've gained probably easily. I've gained 200 to 225,000 in equity.
Yeah, that's
just
crazy.
From sitting on this. It's nuts. I've never seen it like that before. Yeah. I even financed once because these rates keep dropping. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm taking advantage, and just save me. I mean, right now is just really a good time to actually buy a house, in my opinion, because the mortgage rate's so low. Money's a lot less expensive to lend. So, but it's just the housing prices go up. You got one demon or the other you got to face, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. As interest rates, as real estate rates go higher, the interest rates go lower, and then it's kind of the same inverse effect when the real estate goes lower. They just kind of go opposite of each other.
They do, they really do, and it has a lot to do with the inventory. So and I'm not an expert on this, but I do know that obviously when money is easier to get for people to purchase homes, then they'll purchase homes, and so that leaves inventories lower. So that's why the prices go up, because there's supply and demand. If there's less inventory and more buyers, then prices go up. Yeah. But it's right now like nutty. Yeah, I mean, my brother he purchased another place in the Seattle area just like a couple weeks ago, and they're doing something weird there in Washington. He said the home sellers are collecting bids till a date. They'll say, we're collecting bids till this date. Here's the asking price, but we're collecting bids this date. So what they do is they collect bids because they're getting so many. Yeah. There's so many people moving that they want to see them all, because otherwise the first good one that comes along, they don't know if they might get better offers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To be able to ferret out all the deals. And my brother said, these people are fucking paying 50, 40, 50, 60 grand over asking. He said, you can't, they're buying it over like 50 grand over appraisal. Yeah. And he's like, nobody can get that with a standard mortgage, because no one's going to lend you more money than the home is worth. Yeah. And so they have to be coming just with cash. And just boom, 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 which is kind of throwing the market off.
Oh no, that's what's been happening here too. My buddy just sold his house, and it was the same thing. He got 40 something grand more than asking. They waived the inspection, the home inspection, all that stuff. I'm like, that's crazy.
No kidding. Like, you could inherit a house that's got some real problems if you don't watch it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's developers that are probably just going to flip them and sit on them or do whatever, or just who knows. But
I think certain areas, and I don't know about what you think about this, and this is just an idea that popped in my head. I don't know if it's a really good idea, but I think that there's some logic to say that maybe to keep housing prices realistic for most of us, because houses are supposed to be there for us to fucking live in, not for investors to invest in, and then it fucks everybody else who wants to live there. That doesn't seem right to me. It seems like we need to make sure that people have good quality housing. Everyone should have this. this is an entitlement that we should all really, really be able to have if we're willing to work and we're willing to put our 2 cents in, so to speak. But when you have these investors come in, they just, in my opinion, they screw shit up.
Yeah. And you know, the good thing is that they're not screwing everywhere up. They're only screwing certain parts of the country up. You know what I mean? So there's always affordable real estate out there. You might just have to go to, you know, somewhere, you know, that you didn't think about.
I don't even live there.
Yeah. So how did you, like, I know you've been involved in bodybuilding for decades. Like what brought you into that? Like what piqued your interest and got you involved in getting involved in that?
Well, bodybuilding. Well, when I was 15, it's kind of I feel like it's some kind of standard story you might hear from bodybuilders, but maybe it's not. When I was 15, I was a really skinny kid. I'm Japanese and Hawaiian, and then my mother, that's my father. My mother is European. She's English, mostly British, and German, and Irish, and Portuguese. And so today I look like I'm Italian, but I'm not. Most people think when I live back east, they all think I'm Italian. But that's probably because there's a lot of Italians live back east. Yeah. When I grew up in Vegas, people thought I was Mexican because, you know, Hispanics live there. But unless I go to Hawaii, then they know I'm Hawaiian and something else. But back when I was 15, I was such a skinny kid, and I was short. You know, I'm Asian, I'm short, skinny. Like I was 95 pounds in high school. That's what I weighed when I was like a sophomore. And I remember seeing this magazine, this Muscle Fitness and a Flex magazine on the rack when I was with my grandmother or my mother buying groceries. And I'm like, holy fuck, you can get that big? Oh, that's what I'm doing. I knew right away. It was like somebody turned a fucking light bulb on in a room, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I picked these 2 magazines up, took them, I bought them, and I showed everybody, all my friends at school. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to be in these motherfucking magazines. And everybody but my twin brother, they all laughed at me. I was like, dude.
They were discounting that Hawaiian gene, man. Like, that Hawaiian gene will get you big, bro.
I know that they weren't trying to hurt my feelings. They were just trying to save me from some disappointment, right? They're like, dude, maybe you should pick a sport like swimming or something. I'm like, fuck swimming. You can't get big swimming, bro. I'm like, no. I'm going to be like this motherfucker right here, this dude here with 21-inch arms. And so that's where my journey started. And I never stopped until I'm 51 now. And so I've had a nice ride my whole life doing this bodybuilding thing. I never thought that I was going to ever make a career out of it. I just was pursuing it as a passion. I went to college and studied exercise science and nutrition and biochemistry. And then I took all the courses in that shit because I figured this was going to help me be Mr. Olympia. And then, so then I ended up getting a degree because I didn't want to get a degree in it. In the late 80s and stuff, in that time, there was no like vocation for me for being a diet coach or for being a nutritionist like the way I wanted to do it. So that was never even in my mind. What was in my mind was I'm taking these courses so I can learn what I need to learn about my body and I can apply it. And then I'll be able to win these shows and be Mr. Olympia, right? Like be the best in the world. And so I took that approach and then realized halfway through school that people were coming to me because I was the biggest guy in the room usually. And they were coming to me for advice. And so I started helping people and training people. And it was just, I didn't even collect money. I didn't even ask for money. It was just people that were other competitors, the football team, the Oregon State football team, and I was there. The athletic director came to me and asked me to help with their weight training program and to help get the football players to size them up because we had such a small team. And so I did that. And so I kind of got introduced to like help working with other athletes that way. Sure. It started that way. Then it branched off to mostly I ran a vitamin store when I was in college as well. So I started to see all these other people who were non-athletes, but were wanting to become like athletes. They were wanting to train like them, be bodybuilders, but didn't want to compete necessarily. So they wanted to do all the same things that we were doing, that I was doing, and they wanted to change their bodies, but they didn't really want to compete or like get on stage or they weren't like playing a sport, but they wanted to look like it. And so I was starting to help some of those people. And that kind of sort of started the sort of planting the seed that I could make this into a viable sort of vocation. But I never still thought that I was going to do that. I thought I got out of college and went to graduate school, studied, I actually went to seminary and studied theology and ethics, and was involved in the Jesus Scholarship. I studied at one time in my life, I was a very sort of devout, sort of conservative kind of Christian, even though today I'm not very religious. I'm a very spiritual person, but not a very religious person. But at that time I was, and I think, and I was concerned about, I went to seminary to study theology and the Jesus scholarship, the historical Jesus. I wanted to understand who the historical person was that we call Jesus today. So that's what I ended up doing. Then when I got out of college, I ended up doing stuff in technology. I still helped people. I still bodybuilded. I still competed. I just didn't think there was a vocation in it. So I didn't even ask people for money. I just helped people. I always had people that I was working with. Because I would always get in great shape for shows, and so I was helping them do this stuff. And I'm that nerdy guy who likes to spend hours in front of my computer trying to figure out what the fuck these drugs do, what the fuck these vitamins do, what the hell how this stuff works in my body, why am I getting this result? How do I track all this stuff? So I was doing all that stuff, and it just sort of lent itself to me preparing myself to really work with people on a full-time basis, which I ended up doing later on in life after I would retire from technology. And I just, because I got to a point when I was like 30 where I said, you know what? I have been doing this part-time for all these years, and it's really what I love doing. And I don't really love working. I worked for Oracle. I didn't really love working for Oracle. And I was our top sales guy. I mean, I was our top sales guy in the 90s and selling technology to startups who, and it was like a huge boom. And it was an incredible time because I got to see how this could work virtually. Yeah. And so I developed I said, hey, I could do this shit online. I don't have to fucking be in a gym all day. I don't have to do it that way, because I didn't want to train people. I still don't like training people. Yeah. I don't really train people anymore. My time, I'm too expensive. I'm not going to sit there for $60 an hour in a gym. Fuck that. Like, no, I'm much more expensive than that. So I don't really do that. I don't really enjoy it. Sure. So I do it only on special occasions when I have like weekend seminars where I'll bring some people in, some athletes or some clients, and then I'll work with them individually. I'll work with them in the gym. So that way, it's real functional. But I just ended up, I remember ended up walking away from my career in technology, and my wife was like, well, why don't you just wait a few years, and then you could probably just retire and just do whatever you want. I'm like, nope, not going to make it that far. I fucking hate what I do. I'm just that dude. I'm that guy who, if I don't like something, I just don't do the things I don't like doing. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I do the things I have to do sometimes, but when it comes to things like my career, like I go to the gym because I like working out. I have this job, this career that I have that created, carved out of nothing because I wanted it this way. I don't like to be on a schedule. I don't like to wake up early. I don't like to, I want to go train when I want to train. And I think that all of our lives should be architected in a way that makes sense to us. So that's why bodybuilding was so much more than a career, so much more than an impetus for me to want to change my body or to have self-esteem. It was so much more than that, although it did those things too. But it was so much more because it helped me evolve as a person to gain control over my life from a career standpoint, from a physical standpoint, and also from an emotional standpoint, because it led me into doing all these other things that I do, which all have to do with well-being. So today I would classify myself as focusing more on well-being, health through well-being, which to me means it's more than just nutrition. It's more than just activity. It's more than just what I do with my body. It's also how I connect with my inner being, how connected am I to my spirit, to that piece of me that's larger than who I look like from the physical. It's bigger than that. Like, unless because I believe, like most people, that I'm more than my body. And so if I'm more than my body, then what am I, right? Like, and I know that this bigger, larger part of me, I can't see it. I can only feel it. But it's important to my well-being, to how I get along in this life, how fulfilled I am, how satisfied I am with my life process and experiences, and that all has to do with me taking care of that aspect of myself as well. I have to take care of my body, I have to take care of my mind, and I have to take care of my spirit. Not from a religious perspective, but just from a personal perspective. Personally, I believe that to feel whole and healthy. And I just wrote an article about this, True Health. True health is a combination of mind, body, and spirit. It's not just a physically healthy body. That's one level of health, but it's not complete health. I know lots of people who are very healthy physically, but are miserable. And that's not health. it was not healthy. I mean, your body works great, but why? But you're always depressed, or you're sad, or you're angry, or you're pessimistic about life, or you don't want to be here. Like, I mean, there's all these other levels or aspects to ourselves that I think bodybuilding was the impetus for me to develop, for me to understand them more completely. So, like, a lot of times in most of my programs that I offer, they're very well-rounded approach. So I don't take the same approach that other coaches do in the industry, whether I'm prepping an athlete for a show, or whether I'm just helping somebody lose body fat, or whether I'm helping somebody, change their physique to something that they want to see in the mirror. Whatever it is that we're doing, I take this full mind-body approach, because I found over the years that if I just work off the body, then I got a success rate of about 70%. But if I work off of mind and body and spirit, my rate of success goes all the way to like in the 90s.
Yeah.
So that's why I focus on. And again, the caveat is that I'm not the one doing it. I'm just the one sweeping the dirt away off the path. The person who I'm working with has to do the work. They have to be on board with it. They have to see the connection between mind, body, spirit. If they don't, it doesn't matter it's like, you got to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So if I'm asking them to do some meditation, or if I'm asking them to do some kind of journaling exercise, man, if you're not bought into this shit, then it's not going to help you. You can't just walk through the motions on this.
Yeah.
But if you really want transformation, if you really, really want to change, then if you take all this stuff seriously, then you'll start to see how it's all interconnected. I did. It took me years to do it. It took me years to figure out how all these connections, why they made sense to me and why they were impacting my life. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to be incredibly successful in my career, and to still be able to generate success even today after I've been retired from competing about 5 or 6 years now. And again, like, I would still love to compete, but I've done my fair share of competing. And besides that, as a competitive bodybuilder, I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's a set number of years that are really ideal to do this. Yeah. After that, you're just not the bodybuilder. And I didn't want to be that guy on stage who's tired looking and fucking no, I want to go out. I want the last show that I do to be my best one. Sure. Not just the best I do.
Yeah.
So that was just me. That's not everybody. That was just me. So I did that. And I retired, and I was happy with that. But now I focus most of my energy on my athletes and my clients, and I do go out and judge pro shows and pro-ams and stuff, and that's very fun. I go to the Olympia, and I work that every year as well. I'll be going this year in a couple of weeks to go to the Olympia. It's going to be a good, exciting one, it'll be a fun one, because Big Ramy is going to try to repeat. We're going to see what happens there. I don't know if you follow the industry or not, but he's probably the biggest Mr. Olympia we've had. I mean, Ronnie Coleman was pretty big, but Ramy, fucking that motherfucker's big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I don't super follow it, but I do. I know Coleman. I know you guys are talking about, but like, because they're the major guys, you know what I mean? But I mean, this is a very interesting approach, and I know when we were talking before, you were saying you were one of the first, if not the first, kind of person to bring like nutrition and diet coaching online. Like, what kind of led you? Like, when did the switch flip for you? That it's more than just the physical aspects and the nutrition aspects. Like, when did you think more about you had to get the total mental kind of component in the as well as the spiritual component into it? How did that all come together for you? Because you don't see that a lot in a lot of the online coaching and stuff that you see around nowadays.
No, you don't. I feel like people are more aware of this connection. I feel like I hear more about people being interested in mindfulness and presence, these kinds of modalities that help us to live more fulfilled lives. But I started to integrate it when it was important to me in my life. So because I was so intimately tied into the religious aspects of my life early on in my life, I studied world religions. I studied all these things because I was trying to answer my own questions personally about my own spirituality and my own religion. And what I was coming to was that this is who we are. Like, we are spiritual creatures. We are loving, caring creatures. And when we don't feel loving and we don't feel cared for, and when we don't feel the way then we feel off. when somebody doesn't feel good, what do? They seek to feel good. We don't ever seek to feel bad. We always seek to feel good. But when we feel good, we seek to stay there. It's because I think, and what that usually feels like, it feels like love or joy. And so that's why I say we're joyful, loving creatures by nature. This is our natural state of being. And so the only way that I've seen in my life to be able to truly capture that in its fullest expression is for me to connect together all the spheres of my life, mind, body, and spirit. Even if I leave out just one of those aspects, then I'll suffer somewhere else. I'll suffer if I don't, for instance, if I don't support the mind, then I'm not educating myself. I'm not furthering what I'm doing and what I know and my knowledge. And you and I both know that, especially in this sport, in this day and age, knowledge is turning over at a record pace. So the shit that we thought was right 2 years ago might not be now, or the things that we think are good might not be tomorrow. And we got to keep up with that. Nothing stays static. If there's one thing I know about life is that one, we're all born to die, and two, change is fucking inevitable.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
You better shake hands with both those ideas. That's why I don't get upset about people who die. I'm sad that I can't interact with them anymore, but I'm not sad that they transitioned, because I don't believe they went anywhere. But that's another story. But I did feel like after my career in corporate America, that what I really wanted was control over my career and my life process. And so I just had to go into business for myself. I've always been an entrepreneurial person. So building my own business was just the next natural step, and working in technology, and helping those companies go to the internet. I was selling I was selling application licenses for Oracle to companies like Amazon and eBay, and I was like Starbucks, and before anybody knew who these fucking companies were. I remember thinking, guys, I'm like, well, first of all, I was completely wrong about one thing. I remember talking to people at Amazon. I'm like, you don't fucking why do you want to spend all this money? They were going to spend 7 figures on licenses for Oracle licenses, and they're just going to sell fucking books. And I'm like, really? I don't see how you're going to, I don't see how your business plan is going to work just selling books. Well, I was fucking wrong. Those motherfuckers sold the shit out of that shit, and they started selling everything, and they had a bigger strategy in place. But what it showed me was that there is an audience out there, and this is a wonderful medium to be able to reach that audience. I don't have to pay these these fees. Like before you had to either advertise in magazines or advertise on TV, and that was incredibly expensive.
Sure.
Now kids today don't even know this shit, because it's not applicable anymore. Nobody pays for commercials anymore that much, except for big corporations. And of course, everything is internet driven these days, and mostly social media driven. That's where everyone's hanging out. They're all hanging out on fucking Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all this shit. Well, and that's great, but it changes the landscape of how you how you focus your business. And it just makes, to me, it was a beautiful thing, because it's like, okay, now I don't need $100,000 to start a business. I can start with almost nothing. All I got to do is put my own sweat equity into it. And that's what I did. It helped that I competed. I'll tell you what else helped. It helped that I fucking loved this shit. That I would do it even if I didn't get paid. So like, it was not a sacrifice to me. It was just what I knew I should be doing. And I just knew that the reward would be there. I didn't have to try to, in fact, I don't even, I like to say, people think I'm fucking crazy, but I don't even hardly look at my bank account, because I just like to focus on the stuff that I'm doing. I don't like to actually, I'm not the guy who's counting his pennies. I do, I'm a big saver, but I don't like to focus on, if I could do this whole thing without money, I would.
Yeah. I get it.
If I could do it all, it's just that we need money to like live and shit.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But that was my modus, and I just picked it up. I thought, if these companies can do this stuff, then I can go to the internet. And so I was the first diet coach online offering these services in the 90s. And I remember every one of my friends said I was nuts for doing this. Like, you're going to quit your job? You can do this? I'm like, yeah, man, this is what I want to do. Like, it's going to work. And they all didn't believe it, man. Of course, now, as you know, like, everybody wants to be a coach nowadays. And
oh yeah, and they're popping up, especially probably because you don't have to put that much money on the line to kind of like delve into a business anymore. Like some people, like especially with something like coaching, you know what I mean? You can just be like, hey, I'm a coach, you know, and as long as you look the part, like you could probably get some clients fairly easily nowadays, you know?
As long, I mean, the proof is always in the pudding. So it's always in in my opinion, a coach is as good as their outcomes. So if the outcomes are there, then great. But you know, after a little bit, like it's easy to spot the bullshitters. I can spot them out because, you know, everybody wants to coach, but you got to know what you're looking for. So like people ask me this question. They ask me that, well, how do you find a good coach? Well, here's what you do. You actually have to talk to people. Sorry, folks, you can't just text them. You can't just email them. You actually got to talk to them. And the reason why is because most people, well, there's a lot of nonverbal cues that we give off. And you need to be able to talk to somebody because that's the main way that I communicate with my athletes and my clients is that I like talking to them so that I can ask questions. I can figure out what issues are going on and I can fix them. Change diet, change activity, change something in the program that's going to help us get further us along the pathway to our goals. And the only way for me to really, 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 really do that effectively is to be able to sit and have a dynamic conversation with somebody, not a goddamn text conversation that I can only get 1/3 of the answers from. Because people don't text the way they speak. They don't give you as much details. It's because you can't when you're typing shit. It's harder to do that. Some people do, but it's not my preferred method because I don't like to spend all my time on my phone.
Yeah.
I want to talk to somebody on the phone or I want to talk to somebody face to face. I want to actually talk. I feel like I can get more done quicker, and I don't have time to do other ways that you know sort of that wastes a lot of time. So I can only deal with like 10 people instead of I can deal with like 30.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to do it that way. But I remember people thought I was kind of nuts, but it worked out. It worked out real well. But I do say that the best way to find a good coach is one, ask about experience. So I believe in the 10,000 hour rule. That there's some psychologists. I think Robert Greene's written about this, as well as who else? Gosh, he's my other favorite. Anyway, there's a book called Outliers, and I can't remember the author's name. Anyways, a great book, and he talks about what it takes to be an outlier. So there's the outliers in society, the people on the fringes, the people who are highly successful, and the people who are really getting things. They're the top, the cream of the cream, right? The cream of the crop. The Mozarts, the Steve Jobses of the world. Those people who are excelling at these higher levels that nobody else really does, except for the top 1%. And how are their characteristics? And there seems to be a few. It seems by his measure, and one of them is that it takes about 10,000 hours of experience to be able to master your field well enough to be able to really start creating the really, really good stuff, like Mozart stuff. Like people think when you think of Mozart or like say Einstein, both these individuals seem to feel the stories were told, and he goes over these in his book really, really precisely over these examples that people oftentimes think that those people were born like that. They were born to be a great musician or born to be this world famous physicist. Well, maybe not. But he points out that these people that led them down the pathway that allowed them to be able to excel. And one of the ones is they all have opportunity in terms of putting the kind of time it takes to master a skill like playing a piano or writing music or figuring out physics problems. It takes about 10,000 hours of work before people start creating and doing really, really good stuff. And he goes over their life, and it points out that, look, by the time you don't even hear about anything from Einstein, for instance, until he's in his mid to late 20s. He's not producing the stuff that we know today as the great stuff that he produced until he's well beyond those 10,000 hours, right? Yeah. So same thing with Mozart. Mozart started when he was 3, right? His dad was a court composer for the Austrian court composer. So his dad was already doing this work. So he was revising it, because you'll read stuff about Mozart that says he was writing symphonies when he was like 6. Technically, he wasn't. He was revising his father's. Okay, but still, it will do this at fucking 6 and 7 years old. But the reason why is because he's collecting hours of this work at the age of 3 to 6. And then he's continuing on through his 20s and obviously his whole life. And by the time he gets to be like 23, 24, 25, his dude's got 20, 30,000 hours. He's crushing it. Yeah. And so, yes, he's like a prodigy. But really, he's probably got proclivities for it. But really, it's the opportunity and it's the ability to put that time in on it. Bill Gates, the same thing. You look at what he was doing when he was trying to go to school, and when he was in high school, he got special access to one of only 2 goddamn supercomputers in the fucking United States. Who gets that privilege? Yeah. He did. And he got it for 4 years when he was in high school. By the time he graduated from high school, when he was 17 or so, he had more computer experience putting down code down than the professors, than the best professors in computer science in our country at the time. So he was at 17. He was already doing stuff that they didn't know how to do because he was just putting the time in. He got free. You had to pay for that time. Or the professors had to pay money to like actually rent that computer time because there was only 2 supercomputers in the whole United States at the time that could do this work. And he happened to live near them and he happened to get special dispensation from the school. And they said, yeah, whenever it's free, you can use it. So every day after school, he's in there plugging away on this shit. So that's why Bill Gates became Bill Gates. Yeah. That's just part of the reason. I mean, there's lots of
sure,
other stuff
yeah.
But it's just 10,000 hours. And I think I looked at my schedule and when I read that book, I couldn't help it. So I did my own math. So, and this is 2 years ago to these numbers. So I haven't really done the math, but as of 2 years ago, I had 67,000 hours in this game. And there's a difference between somebody who coaches somebody who has 67,000 hours and somebody who has a couple of thousand hours.
Yeah.
And what counts doing this work. And I'm not a big fan of I'm a big fan of education and stuff, but I'm not a big fan that I think it's the end and all means. I think that the real stuff, the best people doing the best work in the world, whether it be coaching, whether it be musicians, are people who've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. No, and I agree. Cause like school can teach you like a foundation, but you're not going to learn it till you get your hands dirty and in it, and that's with like probably anything really,
I mean, like how competent or comfortable are you about the mechanic who's just started? Maybe they know how to do everything with a car, right? Like you can go to school, you can learn how to do all this stuff and they can fix the stuff, but they don't have enough experience yet. They haven't encountered problems that you talk to a mechanic who's done it for 40 years and he can look at something and go, oh yeah, that's a problem right there.
Yeah.
And he cuts down all that bullshit time that you have to waste trying to fuck around with the new guy who's like, hey, he's never encountered this problem before. So he's like, I got to figure it out. He can figure it out, but now you're wasting 2 weeks.
Yeah.
and only to help him learn. And I say, well, it's okay. People can do that with their coaching if they want, but I wouldn't want to pay someone to learn on me.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to do that. So that's why so the best way I think is look at experience. And then of course talk to the person to make sure that you can, get along with them, that the kind of communication that they're giving, that they're offering is something that resonates with the person, because not everybody, I'm not for everybody. I'm not that guy. I'll get somebody that says, hey man, I need you to be really hard on me because otherwise I don't follow my plan. And I say, you're not the right guy for me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to berate you because you can't fucking get off your ass and eat your fucking meals and go to the fucking gym when you need to. That's not my job. My job is to give you the expertise. My job is to help you acquire the outcomes. But I'm not here to be the guy to nag you like a fucking wife or a ball and chain or something. That's no, that's not and besides, I would tell the person, you don't want me to be like that because I know you will fucking hate me.
Yeah.
You talk about the squeaky.
You don't want to be in drill sergeant mode.
Yeah. I'm like, I will be relentless on your ass and you will not like me. And I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
I'd rather encourage you. I'd rather look at why, and this is why I take this 3-tier approach. I'd rather look at why you're doing the behaviors you're doing, get to the root of it, become aware of it, and then implement things that can help you change. And that comes from the kind of process I have. If you just have a coach that just gives you a diet, just gives you those kinds of things, and you just want the nuts and bolts, that's what most people do, 99%, then that's fine, and that'll work if you don't have any issues. But what if you got issues? What if you can't? What if you're that person that just is having a hard time getting your diet straight, getting on doing on cardio? Well, then you got to go through a transformative process. And I figured this out several years ago that the reason why my percentage of success rate goes up so dramatically when I take this new approach is because I'm attacking those problems. And guess where they come from? They come from traumas, man.
Yeah.
They come from deep traumas that we all fucking have. We all have these internal issues. And so for those people who don't want to do shadow work, who don't want to do the real internal work of life that helps you to really understand who you are, connect with who you are, understand what your issues really are, and to solve them, because it's an uncomfortable, painful process. But when you're through the other side, it's like fucking gold. Well, if you're not one of those people who wants to do that, don't call me because I'm not the guy for you. I want people to go to those dark places that I can help them through, and then they're a more powerful, empowered person afterwards, and they no longer have those sticking points in their diet, in their activities, in their problems because they've alleviated the real problem. Behaviors are there for good reasons. All of your behaviors are we're running programs. These are programs that we have designed ourselves through our experiences and through the meaning that we created with it. And when you don't even know when most of the 94% of the thoughts we think are automatic, they're programs, man. They're running every day. We're thinking the same shit. We're doing the same shit every day. And that's the reason why we're getting the same results. And so when you want to change the program, then it starts to feel uncomfortable. And if you can't manage uncomfortability in your life, you will not be successful, period. And I tell people this all the time. The most successful athletes in this world or successful people in this world do one thing consistently correctly. They manage their level of uncomfortability. If you can't manage how uncomfortable you get when you do something new, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to want to do it again. When I went to the gym the first time and had that crushing leg workout that made me not want to sit on the toilet for like 3 days, I was amped. I'm like, I'm hooked. Because I knew what the shit that meant, right? But some people don't get excited about that.
Yeah,
fuck this. Like, oh my God, I can't take a shit.
So,
all that inner dialogue we have with ourselves. And I talk about this a lot with my athletes. It's the inner dialogue, man. I can always spot out a successful person who's going to be successful, a champion, and somebody who's just an almost ran. And it's by their internal speech, how they talk to themselves about themselves, how they talk to themselves about failure, and how they talk to themselves about success. It's like truly successful people failure. It's not in their vocabulary. And I don't mean like they don't want to fail. I mean that they literally do not see the loss as a loss. No, I didn't lose. I learned something.
Yeah.
That's what you'll hear from them. No, we might have lost that game, but I didn't lose. No. I'm not done playing yet. Catch me at the next game. Because that motherfucker is going to take what he learned on that game, and he's going to apply it in practice, and he's going to come back, and he's going to be a little bit better. I'll tell you who I love listening to, and it is a crying shame the man is dead, is Kobe Bryant. Because that dude understood this in spades. And that's why he was always the hardest working motherfucker out there, man. And I just heard an interview with some basketball player. I don't even follow basketball. I don't even like basketball that much. I mean, I like the players because I like excellence in any form. But I remember he was another pro player, and he's like, I guess he was a rookie. He was talking about his experience with Kobe. And he's like, yeah, I get this. He gets there, and he says, he says, the deal was I got to get up early to be at the breakfast table so I get to practice and be out there and be like, somebody who's like really hustling, right? Showing I'm going to be one of the next great players. And he says, I get there like 4 o'clock in the morning, and Kobe's already at the table eating. He said, dude's already got a full-on sweat. He's already worked out. He's already done everything. He's like, I'm just getting up, getting breakfast. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, this motherfucker was not going to let anybody outwork him. I was like, damn, that's the way to do it. It's because I think I heard him say once, I set my bar higher than anybody else, and that's why I excel. And I believe that to be true. It's the expectations we hold to ourselves that are more important than anything else. Because if it's okay for you to let this slide, or to skip 15 minutes on the cardio, or to not push yourself forward, that's all on you, man. Like that's on us. That's our job to like say, no, this isn't good enough. It's based on the level of expectation that we have for our own self and for our outcomes. So people can want great outcomes, but I would tell them, okay, so here's how you show you want it. Is in those times where you have to make a choice to make your life easier or to make it harder. You choose the harder because the harder gets you to your goal faster. That's what you got to do. That's a hard one, man. That's hard for some people. I understand why. But guys like Kobe, guys like Michael Jordan, these guys don't have a fucking problem with this shit. They don't have a problem. I also watch, you know who David Goggins is, right?
Oh, yeah. He's an animal.
Man, I just listen. An animal, right? He's fucking incredible, but I wouldn't tell people to copy his training style. The guy's not something. The guy's really, he's really out there, but he gets it. He's got very similar kinds of proclivities. But I loved one time he was talking about, because he runs, he likes to do the running thing, and he was talking about sometimes I don't feel like it either. He says sometimes, many mornings, I get up at 4:00 whenever he gets up, and he says, and I sit there, I put my run, as I'm lacing up my running shoes. He says, I sit there and I stare at it for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't want to move. I'll fucking just sit there. He says, but then I go, I got to be the hardest motherfucker around, right? That's what he says. I got to be he goes, nope. Then he just gets up and goes, does it. And the way I put it to my athletes is, here's the secret to always get your shit done. Don't think, just do. Don't think. The second you start thinking, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to come up with an argument to give yourself the license to go do the shit that you know is not going to help you. Like staying in bed, like not doing the card, like eating something else that you're not supposed to be eating. Like, no, you don't think. You disengage your brain so that your brain doesn't work against you. Your brain is going to try to keep you the same. It's going to try to keep you in comfort and ease. Well, comfort and ease keeps our bodies the same. It keeps our lives the same. It's discomfort and it's uncomfortability and pain and challenge that actually makes us excel and improve and evolve and adapt. Well, you can't do that if you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Sorry. So champions know this, and people who understand succeeding, they understand that it takes a great deal of discomfort, that you have to be able to manage that process. And if you can't, then you're screwed.
Yeah. No, that's all interesting stuff, man, for sure. And it's, I think probably a hard thing too is, like you said, a lot of stuff is programmed into you. So it's like even acknowledging or knowing that your brain is kicking in and just making the easy decision for you, and like being able to stop that in the moment so that you do the right thing, or not the right thing, but the thing that gets you to your goal. Like I'm sure that can be a hard thing to overcome for a lot of people.
It can be, but it's not as hard as they think, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's only hard because we believe it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's a very powerful thing. Like an example I use is like, okay, so you ever seen those flea circuses?
Seen what?
Like, you know, talking about a flea circus. You know those.
Oh yeah.
They train these fleas, right?
Yeah.
This is real thing. This is real shit. You do this. Like they take these fleas and you put them in a jar, and you close the jar. You poke a couple holes in so they have air, and you close the jar lid so they can't get out. And you'll hear them. Fleas can jump like a foot or two. Okay, big fucking little springs on them, and you can hear them ding, ding, ding. They're hitting the top of the lid. But after about an hour or so, you'll hear ding, 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 and then soon later you stop hearing it. They stop because they jump and they hit it and it hurts. And after a while they figure it out and they jump just high enough so they don't hit their head on the lid. And at that point, you can unscrew that lid, take it off, and just leave it open. Doesn't matter anymore. They're never going to get out because they believe there's a lid. They believe there's a ceiling. And so they never jump beyond it. And they train them so that way they can keep them in these little circuses and they train them. But we're the same way. If you believe there's a ceiling to your life, you'll jump just high enough to where you get right under it, because that's your ceiling. So the question I'm always asking is, where's my ceiling? Where's my limits? Do I want to have limits? I don't want to have limits. I don't want to have any limits. I want to allow the universe to give me exactly what I desire. I just got to give it an opportunity to do it. So that's just my personal. I know that most of us, we architect our own success, and we architect our own failures. The people who really understand what I'm talking about, know that they got to, in order to be truly successful in life, in order to really, really achieve the things that we really want, You're going to have to own all your shit. Got to own it all. Got to own the good stuff and the bad stuff. That means when I cheat on my diet, I got to own that shit because I cheated. There's no excuses. This is the reason why. Yeah, there's always good reasons why. But the bottom line, I didn't do it because I didn't do it. Because I chose not to. I chose something else. So I can't complain about the results. But we always do.
Yeah.
It seems like it.
No, now your clientele, like, is it a pretty diverse range of? Is it like athletes and also kind of like lay people, like that aren't like competing athletes? Like, is it?
I have all kinds. So like I do have quite a few athletes because that's where the industry I come out of. But and 60% of my clientele is probably women. 60 to 70%, 40%, 40 to 35 to 40% is probably men. So I have a lot of normal clientele. I have a lot of, and I have of course, I have quite a few athletes in all different kinds of sports as well.
Yeah.
But predominantly the fitness arena. I've also worked with like fitness models and people of that nature to look good for photo shoots and stuff like that. That's always fun. The most fun people are the transformation people. To be honest, they're the most fun. The reason why is because you really get to see the impact that you have on a person's life. When I help somebody win a show, it doesn't change their life. Even if they get a pro card, it doesn't change their life. But when I help somebody lose 100 pounds, then it changes their fucking life.
Sure.
And all I tell them, I try to reassure them that, hey, look, man, I'm like, really, I get why they say that because they, I was a part of that process, but I try to remind them that no, do not let go of your power. Don't give it to me, man. I got my own. You hold on to it yourself. You did the work. All I did was point the way, which path to take. All I did. You had to do the work. Give yourself credit so that way in the future, if something happens, you can take your power back again if you need to. People are always giving their power away. I never understood that. Don't give your power away. Don't give it away. It's yours. Everyone's got their own. They don't need. Nobody needs you to agree with them either. So, and I think sometimes we do that. Sometimes we do it in the guise of keeping it real. Oh, I'm just trying to keep it real, and I try to say, well, you're keeping it real negative. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't like it. I get it. There's always 1,000 ways to describe the same scenario. But here's the key. You and I get to choose. So why would I describe something in a way that makes me feel disgusted? I would rather describe it in a way that makes me feel good. I could look at my life and I could say, okay, here's some shitty things. Or I could look at my life and go, look at all these fucking wonderful things. Both are true, but it's my experience that I'm fucking with. So I am going to have a great, wonderful, loving, joyful experience in this life, predominantly. I'm going to have everything else too, but predominantly it's going to be joyful and loving. And so in order for me to do that, I got to fill up my moments with more loving and joyful moments than sad or depressed or angry moments. And so that's my choice. That's called perspective. What perspective or what vantage point am I going to view my problems, my situations, my experiences, and what meaning am I going to extract from those situations as well? That's all up to me. I'm the one that gets to do that. But everybody wants to take their power away and say, oh no, I was late because of this. You were late because you were late.
Yeah.
When you own that shit, I don't care what traffic was like. When you own it, then you can do something about it. But if you say, oh man, like traffic was bad, I get it. It might be completely accurate. And that might be the real reason why you're late. But you're still late. And it was up to you to be there on a particular time. I know this, that's why I never tell people to be on time. Because I'm routinely late to shit. It's because I got my own time. I got people call it TAD time. It's really part of like a modified Hawaiian time thing. But it's true. It's like otherwise if somebody who used the excuse traffic was the reason why I was late, then I would tell them, okay, so the only time you're going to be on time is when traffic goes your way.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like, well, I mean, no, man, you get to leave earlier. Take it out route. I don't know. But that is if you care about that. But my point with this is that we get to decide if we're going to embrace our sense of power and our sense of control over our lives, or if we're going to give it away. So somebody who doesn't own their stuff and uses excuses, they play the victim. That's what they're doing. They're playing the victim. I couldn't do it because of this. Oh, I couldn't do my cardio because of this. Or I just ran out of time. Motherfucker, we all have the same amount of time. You didn't manage your time. That's the difference. You didn't manage it based on what you wanted to get done. You managed it based on something else, and that's not working. Yeah. So you got to manage it based on what you want to get done. I get it, and I totally understand why people do what they do. I want them to understand it so that they can take charge of it. We're all in control. So none of us are out of control here. No matter what we think, we're not. We have full control over there's really only two things in this life that we truly control. We control what we think about, and we control what we do. That's it. Okay. Everything else is a crapshoot. Yeah. Right? I can't even guarantee I'm going to get to the gym every day. I can get in an accident. I can have a heart attack. My house can catch on fire. I mean, a number of things can prevent me on any given day to get to the gym. But I just assume I'm going to get there. We all do this. And then the times that we're not there, we go, oh, it's because of this. It's but is it really? Yeah. I don't know. I would prefer to not play the victim. Bad things happen. That's how I learn. I don't care if they happen. What I care about is, am I learning from them? I can't learn if I don't admit it. If I say it's the traffic's fault, I can't fuck with traffic. What am I going to do with that? How am I going to control that? I can't. But if I say, I was late because I didn't leave early enough, traffic was bad, I didn't leave early enough. Now I've taken ownership. Now I can do something about it. I just leave earlier next time. It's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple scenario. But that's just an example of how I do like to try to.
Yeah, because like you said, a lot of it's simple, but it's just a matter of perspective and having someone, if you don't have that perspective, have someone show you that perspective so you can adjust how you think about things and like you said, take ownership of your bullshit. And, also the good things, but, take ownership your bullshit so you can learn from it and correct it.
I think it's the wise person takes ownership of everything in their life because they know that they're in control, or at least they know that they exert a certain level of influence over all these things. And it feels better to me to be able to have some control than to feel out of control.
Yeah.
Right? If I couldn't accomplish things in life because everything else was getting in my way, that would be really goddamn frustrating.
Sure. Yeah.
If I had to rely on people liking me to get a pro card, fuck, that would have been frustrating. Because what if these judges don't like me? They might not like me. They just go but it's not just based on that. It's based on other criteria. And but I didn't have a lot of control over that either. I didn't have any control over how they saw my body in relationship to the criteria. I didn't have any control over who was standing next to me on stage, or maybe some judge just fucking didn't like the way I looked. And it's very possible. I sometimes sit on panels and there's two competitors that are close, and one of them I just like better because they look better. Their body just flows better, and it's hard to put that into a concrete statement that says, "Okay, well, you didn't win because the other one." All I can say is, I just like the way the other person looked better. They were tighter. They were this. But they were more aesthetically pleasing. Some of that we don't control, right? But what we do control is our effort, and we control what we think about, and that is enough to generate the experiences that we need in this life. We may not, I may not be the next Mr. Olympia, but I could certainly have a life like that, and I could certainly feel like that, and I certainly have. I absolutely have in my life. And I also had the advantage of being able to know all these guys too. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. It is a cool fucking thing to sit there and work out with and to be friends with your fucking idols.
Oh yeah.
I've had the luxury of being able to do that, and it is fucking cool. Okay, so and I wish that on everybody. To be able, I posted a really interesting article today. A thing today. It was somebody talking about. I don't know if you remember this story. It's in 1982. There was. It was. I think it was. I can't remember which baseball team. Let me see. It was Fenway Park. It was in Fenway, and it was Jim Rice. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, Red Sox.
He hit a line drive out there, popped some kid in the face. Kids went down. bleeding. And of course, he sees this. He bolts up there. He's in this. I don't think he was the one on. He was actually in the dugout. I think he bolts up there. He grabs his kid and gets him down on the grass. And their medical team from the players' medical people came over and started to help the kid because he got hit in the face with this fucking baseball. And of course, the doctors came. The ambulance came. They took him away within 30 minutes. But they said that the doctor said if he hadn't have done that, this kid would have died.
Wow,
would have fucking died. It was because he got this quick care right away. And I'm like, I posted this because I said, this is what the real sports heroes do. It's more than just like being great at a sport. It's being a great fucking human being. Like, I don't think we exalt that enough in our culture. Like, it's wonderful. We cite examples, but I'm really trying to help people be great human beings, not just great athletes, not just great people, but I mean, not just look great and be great athletes, but really great human beings. I can't ask people to do acts like this, but I think it's a natural occurrence when you have compassion and you feel the joy and fulfillment in your own life. You naturally want others to feel it too. It's a part of the deal. Like when you find something truly exciting, what do you want to do? You want to go tell as many motherfuckers about it as you can because you're excited about it. Even if they don't care, you still want to tell them. So I think sharing our joy, sharing some of these things is an important part of being a good person, if you will.
Yeah.
But this was just a cool story that I thought I posted up, and I got a nice picture of him carrying this kid. I would have been, if I was that kid's father, I would have been fucking, I don't know if I would have been like, holy fuck. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, kid gets hit with a baseball, but I guess it happens at some of those baseball games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, and everyone's there trying to catch the balls. I'm not saying that kid was, you know what I mean? But, everyone's trying to catch them. That type of shit's going to happen sooner or later, Surprised it doesn't happen more, than we hear about. But, one thing you said that was interesting, though, is when you said, it's pretty cool to be able to kind of, work out with your idols or things like that. I mean, that's also another measure of success that you made it. Like, you're a master in your trade. Like, the 10,000 hours is definitely a thing. But like another way to gauge success is like I've heard this before is that when your idols become your peers, you know what I mean? And then and you might not even realize it, and you might get imposter syndrome and be like, should I even be here? But like at some point, like when you find yourself that your peers are the people that you once looked up to, then you've kind of became, more of a, not saying a master, but a master in your, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Did you ask a question? I'm sorry. Did I miss it?
Oh, no. I was just kind of like saying it was like, it was just kind of like, because earlier on we were talking about like, how do you know if someone's like good at what they do or like finding a good coach, and you talking about the 10,000 hours and all the stuff, that effort that goes into it. But I was saying another way to know that you've made it or like you're successful at what you do is like if you said if your peers, if the people that were your idols now are your peers, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, 100%. You just find yourself, I think, you find yourself in these circles of expertise, I'll call it, whatever field you're in, whether it be sports or whether it be an industry or whether it doesn't matter. When you start focusing on being an expert, start to really, really hone your craft and really be as good as you can be, and you're focused on that, you just naturally start to collect circles of people. You start being in circles of individuals that are like this.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to stop. And you just don't tolerate the people who just fill your life with bullshit. The people who underperform, underachieve. And it's not because they're horrible people. No. They're wonderful people. But they're not in alignment with where you're going. It's like getting on a bus. Like I'm on the blue bus going here, going there. And if you got to be going where I'm going to get on this bus. Because I'm not on the red bus. I'm on the blue bus or the green, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if you're on this fast track to achieve, like I found myself in these circles in bodybuilding because I was not accepting anything but success from this. So like I was going to learn what I needed to learn. I always wanted to be around people that I could learn from, that I could see how they're doing it. I can see how, like, because obviously they're doing it right. They're doing something right.
Sure.
So anytime I can glean information, and most of the time, we do almost everything through emulation. So much of our life is we learn through, emulating others. And so so I think that's an important part of this process, that you just naturally find yourself in those circles. And if you don't, if for some reason you're involved in circles that really are their goals are far below where you really want to go in life, then it's my recommendation that people say, okay, you might want to limit your time with those people. Show me the top 5 people you hang out with. You hear this all the time. I don't know who is in the site. I know several people have said there's some famous entrepreneurs and motivational speakers, but show me your 5 people that you hang out most with, and I'll show you your success ceiling. You look at the most successful people that you hang out with, on a regular basis, that's as high as you can go. That's what they say, and I believe that. So if you want to raise your ceiling, then you will naturally find yourself in circles that have people who have higher ceilings than you.
Yeah.
Period. That's all there is to it. And when you find yourself in those circles with people whose ceiling for success is much lower than yours, you feel it. You feel it. When somebody says, oh man, I can't wait, I might get this job at fucking Target tomorrow, and there's nothing wrong with working at Target, okay? But if your goal is to be a billionaire and you're hanging out with people working at Target, you're probably going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah. You're going to feel that shit. You'll be like, hey man, I know you got to go to work, but I'm going to have to, so I got to go do something else, bro. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with doing any job. And success in my mind is actually a lot less economic than anything else. But I'm just using that as a common metric.
Sure.
Yeah. Most people use. My definition of success technically is being able to exercise my joy and my happiness in my life. So when I feel the joy of my life, when I can, and the happiness in my life, this is how I think of success. When I can do this, because I want something. Success to me means something that's more permanent in nature and not so temporary. Feelings are temporary. This life is temporary, but there's some things that are beyond that for me, and those are things like connection. I really believe that we're all truly connected, but we don't always feel that way. And so we feel a disconnection, and it's because this is the state that we live in. We separate ourselves from one another and from things. We do it for the best intentions sometimes, and sometimes we do it because it's the way that we've been enculturated in our life to live, that we have to something. But really, we're not really like. Did you ever see that movie Alpha? With the boy and his dog, and it's about this prehistoric story about how we sort of domesticated dogs. It really it's really sort of speaking to that. It came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Great movie, by the way. But it's really talking about, but what you really see, especially if you're interested in anthropology or sociology, you really see how, one, we relied on animals to help us survive. But two, when we're alone, we fucking suck. Okay? When we're alone out there in nature, there's so many other creatures that can fuck us up.
Oh, yeah.
We are not that. We just aren't that badass. Unless today we are, because we got guns and we got all these other weapons. But I don't care, the strongest dude on the planet. Put him right out there and put him up next to a bear or put him next to a tiger. Fuck, I'll put my money on the tiger or the bear any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and they don't got any special intellect. They don't have any special skills other than their natural born weapons, claws and teeth, but powerful, right? So we are not that powerful, but because of our intellect, because of these other things, we have become the dominant species. And it's really sad. So the movie really highlights, especially for someone like yourself who's got a history in some anthropology, and if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I think you might enjoy it. I liked it a lot.
Honestly, that's one of the movies that was on my list of things to see and then slid by and you forget about and then as soon as you mentioned, I was like, oh shit, I've been meaning to watch that. I forgot about it. So I'm gonna put that back on the queue,
Dialogue was a great movie to watch because language was limited, but they still have some language there in the movie. I won't spoil the movie for you, but great movie. It really is a good movie. They, but I did like the way they really tried to highlight in the movie. They must have consulted with some anthropologists or something, because they tried to be accurate to how we might have domesticated animal, how this could have come about,
sure,
and what kind of impact it would have on our living. And you really see, man, you're like, this motherfucker's fucked. I like watching movies like that where people like they have to make it through like harsh conditions, and they like make it. And you see because like that one movie. What was that one with the fellow? It was a true story about the fellow who was out in the desert somewhere, and he was hiking and he got trapped, had to cut off part of his arm. Remember a couple years ago, it was the movie got an Oscar. Who was it? I think got an Oscar or got an award or nominated. I don't
know that one.
He had to cut it like from the elbow because he got wedged in this thing. He was rock climbing through this one area in Moab or somewhere, and he gets caught. And of course, he falls down this crevice and gets caught, and he can't get free. He's stuck, and it's his arm. Part of his arm is stuck in between, and he's in between these big rocks, so to speak, and he can't get loose. So he's got no water, and he's like, but he's got a video camera. True story. It's like a true fucking story. It really happened. And so he films himself. He's only got so much battery life, so he's filming it as a way to document this because he doesn't even know if anyone's going to find him. And eventually he comes to the conclusion like, hey man, if I'm going to live, I'm going to have to cut part of my arm off. And all I got is this fucking pocket knife. So he cuts his fucking arm off, and he gets rescued. But oh man, I was like, I could only watch that kind of shit once. Like, sorry, man, I can watch this movie once.
Yeah.
Because that's a thought that I don't want to have in my life. I don't want to have to fucking cut my body parts off just to live.
No, that's the thing. Like, I think unless you're in that situation, like right now, I can't imagine doing it. If you're that guy stuck in the rock and you've been there for 4 days and you really need food and water and you can't get out, then you're going to be more apt to be able to do it. Like mind over matter at that point. But yeah, that's fucking bananas, dude.
I actually heard, maybe you know this because I know you're a movie buff. I heard that they're coming out with another Matrix movie. Matrix, was it Reincarnation?
I heard that's happening. I haven't really, I haven't followed up on that, but I and it seems like you can tell that's coming because they're like starting to bring the Matrix back on, like advertise it again on TV and stuff. So like you can tell that there's going to be a sequel in the works.
They made so much money on those first three, and they were great movies.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. Of course, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I watched the first one. I wasn't watch it. I like it. I like all those kind of movies.
Yeah, they can make it real applicable to today. That's for sure. I feel like every day I feel like we're in the fucking Matrix. It's crazier and crazier.
And it depends on who you talk to. I got a lot of friends who are conspiracy theorists and people who have and I don't put any idea down.
No,
because you just don't know.
Sure,
I just don't know, boy. So it's kind of funny. Anywhere from aliens to reptilian aliens who live beneath the surface of our planet.
Oh yeah. To flat Earth. To
I got some skepticism about it. I'm like, okay, look, I can accept just about anything. We got fucking people in space now, man. Like I just saw this new non-astronaut thing going. Like what was it? It was 4 people. You see
the first consumer flight or whatever, like non-government flight. Yeah, commercial flight. Yeah, commercial flight. Yeah.
Like all 4 people were non-astronauts. It was called Inspiration 4. I was watching this. There's on Netflix. They documented on the SpaceX series. They're going through all these people. Really quite cool. Like fucking rad. I'm like, I was talking to one of my friends and they were like, "Oh, would you do that?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, man!
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No. I would even volunteer for the first people to colonize Mars. Oh, hands down, man. I want to be part of that community, creating the next. You think of what could be done. Yeah. I believe being able to create utopias. Oh, that would be my mission, man.
Yeah.
I want to create a better way. This is like, like you thought Earth was good. Well, we're going to get something better here. Like I want to be part of that. I would do that. I would totally do that. I would totally do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Did you see the what was it just called? Mission to Mars or something about that with not Ben Affleck, the other guy, the other guy that the Good Will Hunting guy. I should know him. He's from Boston. I forget his name right now.
You're talking who? What was the movie called?
I don't know what it was called, like Mission to Mars, I think, or just Mars. It was the one with not Ben Affleck. What the hell's his name? The guy that played Good Will Hunting. They go out there and they're trying to set the first colony up and all the shit they're going through and whatnot.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Martian.
Oh, Martian. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that. Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
I like all those kinds of space movies, man. Fantasy movies I like, space movies I like.
Yeah, but that was another one where they're overcoming harsh adversity and harsh environments and overcoming the natural elements to survive. But while we're talking about movies, I know that you have your B4 podcast where you're talking about. I like it because we were laughing at the earlier. Like I have the M4 series. You got the B4, which is bourbon, beards, barbells, and bullshit. And I was listening to a couple, and you guys go from all over the place, from talking about like fucking bodybuilding culture to fucking to politics to movies to it's all over the place. It's fun, man, because it keeps it interesting, keep it moving. What caused you to want to start a podcast? I know you got that in the HYH podcast. Like, what got you into podcasting, and talk a little bit more about your podcast.
Well, probably about. Let's see, about 15 years ago, I started doing some podcasting. And I had, my first one I had was called 3 Questions with Ted, the diet coach. And I had that for several years. But the problem with it was that I loved doing it. So I loved having guests. It was a guest-driven podcast, so every week I had to have a guest. So I pretty much interviewed everybody in the industry that I could possibly interview in the bodybuilding industry, in the fitness industry, over those several years. All the Mr. Olympias, you name it, I've had them on because they're all my friends. So so my idea for that podcast was I would generate 3 questions that were unique for each person, that were meaningful questions. And so because people know me as somebody who's a little bit of a deep thinker, and so I wanted some meaningful questions, just 3, and I wanted to show, because my idea was I knew all these guys and gals who were like Mr. Olympias and who were high up in the fitness world that people just saw but didn't know personally, and so many of them were such cool people that I was like, I want to share my friends with everybody else and see it so that they can know them like I knew them, so I can architect these questions to be able to highlight the personality of these people. And it worked really nicely for several years. But after several years, there was nobody to interview that was interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, so I got really tired of just trying to find, and then of course the questions got kind of repetitive. And so I stopped that. And then I had another podcast for several years called Handle Your High with Ted Yoshi. So that was my, and then I converted it to my Handle Your High, because I believed, and I still believe this, that we're all responsible for handling our own high in this life. That you're responsible for managing your emotions. I'm responsible for managing mine. Don't ask me to manage yours for you, and I won't ask you to manage mine. But and the reason why I think this way is because this is what most of us do throughout our life. You need to do this so that I can feel better about you. That's really what we're saying when we ask people to do things they don't want to do. Right? Your girlfriend, your wife, you say, oh, why don't you hold my hand more? Why? If I want to, I will. And maybe it's a good thing to do that. But the reason why she's taking the request is so she can feel better about you. Not about herself, but about you. And so, but it's not, but I believe in all the relationships of our life, we're not responsible to manage the emotions of other people. That's not a power that I have or anybody else has, but we're always asking that question. So I named my podcast that. It's because I was focusing so much, very, very heavily in that time on this inner work, this inner development, and which is really when I was really coming to many of the things that I do today, modalities and exercises and things I use in my practice today when it comes to transformations and when it comes to really being able to work on that inner self and the outer self, transform it from the inside out. And because that's the process, you always transform inside out, never outside in. So that's what I called that. And then eventually came, just this year, I converted that one to, just recently to my B4 podcast, which is, bourbon, beards, barbells, and bullshit.
Yeah.
And that was just because I like talking about stuff that I like.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's
get it.
So it's weights, weightlifting, bodybuilding, it's nutrition, it's exercise, but it's also movies, and I like bourbon.
There you go.
And just anything random. A lot of times I have several different kinds of people on co-hosts that I have. Like I had my shaman on there. She's wonderful. And we most recently talked about healing, talked about inner work. And I've also had some other people on there who talk about racism and stuff like that. Because this is kind of an issue that is important to me as well. So I just like to talk about the stuff I think is important and
Sure.
just and have fun at the same time. I don't want to talk about shit that's just that I'm not having fun with. I definitely have stuff I'm having fun with. So I tend to talk about that stuff. But yeah, but that's why I did it, because I just enjoyed doing those things, and I still do. So, and I'll probably make one more evolution on my podcast. I think I'm still honing this down to something that will be more permanent in nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah. A format that you find the right format that you want to really stick with.
Yeah, and I've been a little inconsistent lately because in the summers my daughter comes and I spend more time with her, so I didn't do quite as much episodes. But I'm back on a good track again. So
sure.
I'm actually thinking about. This is going to sound really weird to some people maybe, but I'm actually going to start. I was thinking about doing another podcast where that's geared towards children, and I wanted to just tell stories, read stories that were meaningful. That had real substantive value. Because I learned really wonderful, valuable moral lessons growing up, listening to really good stories, like the Little Engine. One of my favorites, the Little Engine That Could. The rabbit and the rabbit, the tortoise, and the hare. Right? These are stories that I got a lot of value out of. I always felt like I was a tortoise, but he's the one that wins the race. How does he win the race? He keeps fucking going. He doesn't fucking quit. That's a fucking goddamn good lesson in my book. So, but I think there's more important stories as well. So I thought, maybe I'll do that. I'm going to start to put together some of these cool stories.
That's probably pretty smart too, because I don't think the children's podcast market. I don't have kids, so it's hard for me to know. But it doesn't feel like that's like a big saturated thing yet. And what you're doing is an interesting and important thing, and it's taking the place of something that's kids don't get as much access to today.
Well, yeah, I think I know that when my daughter was growing up, she always wants kids always want you to read the stories before bed, and you run out of stories, man.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have sat there with my daughter and listened to a story on somebody read on a podcast. That would have been fucking great.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome, right? Or follow along or something, but I also love kids, and I would like to try in my best way to contribute to the next generation in a way that's meaningful. And the most meaningful way that I know is by helping them to be the most fullest versions of themselves that they want to be. And the only way to do that is if you know who you are. And the only way we know who we are is we initially find out by others telling us, our parents first. And the way we do it as parents is by loving our children. But some children don't get enough of it. They don't get clear messages of love, clear messages of acceptance, clear messages of worthiness in life. They get other messages that tell them they're not worthy. And that breaks my heart, man. I heard a child once tell me, she was 12 years old. I was with my ex-girlfriend. I was living in Chicago, and we were picking up somebody somewhere, one of her friends, her daughter's friends. They were all like about 12 or 13 years old. And she's like, oh, I'm just, we were talking about school, and she says, oh, I'm just like, I'm stupid. So I didn't get a very good grade. I'm like, whoa. I said, wait a minute. What did you just say? She's like, well, I'm just stupid like that. I'm like, why do you call yourself stupid? I said, why would you say that? I'm like, and she says, well, my mom says it to me all the time. I'm like, oh my God, my heart just sank. I'm like, you're fucking, I wanted to tell her, you're fucking kidding me. Your mom should be slapped in the face. Yeah. Like, why would you say this to your child? Like, even if she is stupid, don't tell her that. Help her.
Yeah, exactly. Don't set the bar low, right? Set the bar up.
So I thought, gosh, sometimes I know that, like, my daughter, she's so cute. When she was younger, she would call me. I remember one time she called me. I was at the grocery store. It was a Friday night, and it was like 9 o'clock. So I'm like, I'm like, hey, sweetheart. And I'm in the store on FaceTime, and she's like, hey, I got my friend with me. I said, do you think you could talk to her for a second? Yes. I said, what do you mean? And she says, well, you always make me feel good whenever I feel sad. So would you talk to her and make her feel good too? I'm like, oh, I said, what's going on? And she said her mother was like not letting her see her father. They were getting divorced. And her mother was holding her back from seeing her dad. And I just gave her some words of encouragement and told her that her dad I bet you your dad really does love you. I bet you your dad really does want to see you. He just can't right now. Just give him a chance, to do that. And because it was her mother that was sort of, I didn't know all of the scenarios, so there could be some very logical reasons why this didn't happen. But she wasn't feeling very good, and I respond to that, and she felt better. But the point is that I think that it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to make a child feel better, even if it's just telling them how worthy they are or how wonderful they are. Because we all need that. We all need that, and those are the messages that we tend to repeat to ourselves over and over and over again. And they can either empower our lives or they can disempower our lives. So I'm very, very, very aware of those kinds of things. Language is incredibly important. I have an identical twin brother, and he's a professor here at ASU, and he's actually a rock star in this field. He actually does this work. He is a professor in rhetoric and composition. Specifically, teaches. He focuses on writing assessment, pedagogy, and how to assess good writing, and as well as racism and ethnic identity. So he focuses on all these things. So right now he's like blowing up the charts. He's got several Book of the Year awards because he talks about racist studies and all these things. But he and I both talk about the power of words. And I'm using I'm paraphrasing from him, but I agree with him that words are magical. That what we say to each other can encourage someone or can break them.
Yeah.
And we have to be cognizant of that if we're compassionate. I'm not saying you can't say shit because I don't believe in doing that, but I do believe that we can be compassionate towards others. If I know that something that I say could hurt somebody's feelings, I'm not going to say it. Why would I do that? Unless there's a bigger purpose beyond that person, right? If there's a bigger purpose that is more important, then of course, but I don't want to intentionally hurt somebody's feelings or make somebody feel bad, but I'm also not there to manage their feelings.
Yeah.
So I'll try my best to not create that puncture wound of truth. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to speak my heart. You're still going to hear that from me. And I would tell those of weaker constitution, I would tell them, you better learn how to sack up because life, I'm as nice as it get. And if you're getting hurt by what I say, I feel for you then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of callous people that aren't going to pad it for you, man. And it's like you said, you give someone the power to, you can't give them the power to fuck with you. You know what I mean? Like through words,
we do it through our reactions. So we're either one of two kinds of people. We're either a reactor or we're intentional. And I'm going to tell you, most people in this life are reactors. They encounter something and they react to it. Let's say somebody says something, they get angry. They react out of anger. Somebody says something that they love and they react out of love. Somebody says something that makes them happy, they react out of joy. Now, that's okay. You can do that, but basically that's a person that runs on programs. And so you're never going to get consistency. You're going to get consistency out of them in terms of them obeying their programs. But you're not going to get but what they say may not always match up to what they do. Robert Greene talks about this in The Laws of Human Nature. Fucking beautiful book. First third of the book, gold. And that was I think it came out 2 years ago. But if you're intentional, that means that you walk into a situation, somebody says something that makes you upset, you take a step back inside and you say, is this worthy of me getting upset? What is really going on? Am I going to allow this person to control how I feel? Is it worth it? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, if somebody pisses you off, you're better off just writing that shit off. Right? Because you're not, you punch him in the face. Okay, so now you punch him in the face. Still said it. Still out there. Now you're the one who feels bad, and you're also the guy who punched the guy in the face. you're being the bigger dick now. They just said shit. You actually did something about it, so now you're the bigger dick. So,
or you might catch a case. Yeah. Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be an MMA fighter who just takes your shit down and fucking kills you.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. MMA shit was a great equalizer, man. You can't go on someone's size or stature because there's some fucking wily little guys that can do some damage, you know.
Oregon State. My undergraduate degree at Oregon State, we used to hang out with one of my friends. His name was Babak. He was from Iran, I think, and he actually wrestled in the Olympics for that country, and also wrestled for us at Oregon State. And he was top 4 in the country, right? And I remember we would go to the bar. He's on the weekend, and he didn't drink. He didn't drink or anything. I didn't either, but I had to watch the shit. So he would go there and he would hang out at the bar with his water, and he was just. And sure enough, man, by the end of the night, someone like taps him and like started to try to start a fight with him. He's just a little guy. He's 130 pounds. No shit. He just doesn't look like shit. And he's like, okay, hey, let's take this outside. So he'll take him outside, and he would just take these motherfuckers down and just play with them for like 30 minutes. And I said, why you do this, man? Because these dudes would get really frustrated, man. They're trying to whip his ass and they can't do shit. Okay, because he was an expert grappler, obviously, and he just take them. And once people get off their feet, you know, most people suck off their feet. And so he said, I do this to practice my moves. He would go out there to practice. He says it's so much easier to practice my moves here. But these guys are like, he's 108 pounds, they're like 220, 230. He's like, they always think they're fucking better. They always think they're fucking better than me. He would get him on their back. He would get him on their back, pin them, and then just like pop them in the chest, just enough to irritate them. Not enough to fucking do any real damage. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Just to demasculate them a little bit.
Man, you get up, you want to keep going? They're like, oh, fuck you, man. They try to jump on. Next thing you know, they're back on the cement again. Funny.
Yeah. Hey,
but that's how you practice.
I had one of the questions from my Patreon members for you, Jake. He wanted to know, and this is I'm not trying to switch gears up, but like this is your area with diet, nutrition, and stuff. He wanted to just know if there was some general recommendations that you might have for vitamins or supplements that are good for the general population for daily maintenance or overall health or energy, things like that, or like what are the things that are missing for people now that are important to get through vitamins or supplements?
Well, a couple things. Good question. I think everyone should just probably have a multivitamin that they take. But that's just for general care, because we can't always assume our diets have all the vitamins and minerals and micronutrients that we need for optimal health. Most people won't die if they don't take these things, but what we're talking about here is trying to achieve optimal health. And that means our body's performing at the highest levels, recovering at the highest levels, handling stress at better levels. And this is and when we do this, our bodies shouldn't get cancers, shouldn't get some of these diseases. But most of the diseases that we die from today are progressive, and they're usually linked to lifestyle issues. And so while vitamins will help, they're something that you just kind of have to do for the long haul, because it's not like exercise where you can see the results literally in weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas vitamins, just you have to take some of them on faith, because the things they're doing for us are going on inside the body, and you don't always feel that. You can feel maybe some of it, but you don't feel not even close to a good percentage of it. So you just have to know, like, this is good for me. For instance, a couple things that right now people should always have on their diet: vitamin C. And you can't be doing this 500 milligram bullshit. Like, you got to take several grams a day for it to be therapeutic in nature. So you have to I take 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C twice a day. I recommend 3 to 4, doing that 3 times a day. If you want, I've done more than that. Historically, I've taken 6,000 to 7,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day for most of my adult life. It helps. It's an anti-carcinogen. It helps our bodies get rid of free radicals, which is free radicals are these damaging things that blast through our bodies because of toxins and other things, and just the natural execution of life as we're moving through life and burning energy and doing all these things. We're releasing all these free radicals in our bodies that can damage cells and cause cellular breakdown. Next thing you know, we have issues. And so things like vitamin E, vitamin C, all these things are antioxidants, selenium. All these things help with handling these free radicals, and we have a lot of them. So stress causes its own set. So vitamin C is the first thing, 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams a day. I would probably recommend for somebody just starting out to take 1,000 milligrams twice a day, and then move it up to 2,000 twice a day. Then also incorporate zinc every day, every fucking day. Minimum 50 to 100 milligrams of zinc. And men should take probably more towards 100. I take 200 a day. It's good for male health. For men, I would tell them to take it at night before bed with magnesium and a little bit of boron, because that'll help with male health. These are things that are extremely good for us as men, and we need them. And most people in the United States, I'm going to tell you, are chronically low in magnesium. And so when you're low in magnesium, it affects just about most of your body processes, especially things like muscle contraction. It'll give people, sometimes people get migraines, stuff like that. And of course, high blood pressure. Believe it or not, if you take magnesium, it actually helps to lower your blood pressure as well, because it's a relaxant on the system. It helps muscles, smooth muscle, and straighten muscle relax more, and it helps your vessels relax more. That tensile strength in your vessels as we age gets more firmer, and then we tend to have higher blood pressure, and that can damage your kidneys. And when your kidneys get damaged, you're screwed. It doesn't come back. So you have to just go on dialysis or get a transplant if you damage them enough. The good news is we only need about 17% of our kidneys to live. So we have a redundant system. So we have two, and so we're really safe, but take care of them. Okay, that's what I say. The third thing I would probably always take is a probiotic. And I prefer Lactobacillus acidophilus, a very particular strain. It's one of the main root strains of all of the different microorganisms that are good for us. Our bionome is probably the most important system, one of the most important systems in our bodies. We have more neural tissue, the nervous tissue, as well as a complete bionome that is in our gut. And when this is not healthy, guess what? You can't create 90 something percent of our serotonin is created in our gut, not in our brain. And so that enables us to feel good, right? Dopamine, all these other reactions happen because we have the serotonin gate system that allows us to feel satisfaction, allows us to feel pleasure, allows us to feel those things. And if your gut is unhealthy, you won't manufacture enough serotonin, and you will feel this in your life. So when we can't eat properly, this is what people don't realize about bad diets. When you have poor gut health, you are not able to feel the joy at the levels other people can if they have a healthy gut. So, and it's really easy to figure it out, because when you start comparing how you feel when the gut is healthy, when it's not, you really, really see the difference. Most people that I work with, they'll say, wow, I didn't know how good I could feel how bad I was feeling until I felt really good. Because feeling the way they feel is normal. Yeah. So they never have anything to compare it to. So they don't really know how bad they're really feeling. Like, no, man, you're supposed to feel like a rock star in the morning. Like when you get up in the morning, you're supposed to go do a workout, and you're supposed to feel better. You're supposed to feel more energized. You're supposed to feel good. At least most of the time you are. Unless you crush your legs, you can't take a shit.
So with a quick question on the probiotics, is there certain ones that you recommend? Because I hear that there's like some of them are just, like obviously all of these products, just like finding a trainer, like some of them are going to be better than others. Is there truth to the fact that like you need some with like special carriers so that it can actually get it, through the intestinal tract without just totally dissolving? Or is there like, is that garbage?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
So probiotics, those bacteria, you don't actually absorb that bacteria. It stays outside your body. It lines the intestines, so you don't actually absorb that.
Okay.
So probiotics, so all those bacteria, you actually want that stuff lives on the lining of your stomach, inside your intestines. It lives there, and then the food that we eat feeds this bacteria, so it can populate in our gut. And then when we encounter bad bacteria or pathogens, that stuff attacks it. So when people, when you get food poisoning, it's because there's some bacteria on the food and it's overgrown in the body. And so now the body is going to try to reject it. So you're going to have diarrhea, you're going to throw up, it's going to just get it all out. But it's the good bacteria that's actually fighting all the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
It's what makes you feel better. Because if it didn't do that, that bacteria would just grow in your gut, and then that bacteria would essentially overrun the gut, and it would consume more nutrients. It would be parasitic in nature, and it wouldn't be good for us. We'd probably die.
Yeah.
So, but I like the refrigerated kind because probiotics are live bacteria. They're alive. Yeah. So if you put them in the heat, they die. So room temperature will kill them eventually. Okay, they won't live there. They only have so much of a shelf life. So when you put them in the refrigerator, though, all of a sudden the life gets longer. It prolongs the life. So you really want to buy. I always prefer to buy the ones that are refrigerated. But it's on my list. Let's see. And then for most people, I would say they need to use chromium picolinate. They just do. Because most people have a sugar problem. They don't manage their bodies don't manage the sugar very well. And so a chromium picolinate, we don't need it for life. It's not essential for life. But when we get it, it's a trace element. And when we get it, we handle sugar better. We don't have sugar cravings as much. Our insulin levels are more healthy, and we don't store as much body fat, and we lose body fat faster, and we hold on to muscle, and we gain muscle fat better. So all the way around, it helps us. It's just not like super powerful, but it does have this effect. Sure. So I would say 200 micrograms of chromium a day is perfect. And then let's see what else. I always have whey protein in my diet, because it's such a good, complete source of protein. So I always have that in my diet, although that's not really a micronutrient, it's more of a macronutrient. But in terms of vitamins, I also keep, there's a couple of herbs I keep that I always take for liver support. Like I always take some of the liver support stuff. I just have always done this. Liver and kidneys and lung tissue, all these things, try to keep as healthy as I possibly can. But those are the basic vitamins. Does that make sense? Does that kind of make sense? The ones that I would say basic. I'd say if you're a person who's training, I would say consider also looking at whey protein, and also perhaps something like creatine is a good natural supplement for people to use who are weight training and who want to get the most out of their weight training. Absolutely, our bodies naturally create it, but we don't manufacture tons of it. And so when you add a little bit to your vitamin protocol, it will have a good effect on your workouts and on your progress. So absolutely. It just may make people hold a little bit of fluid, because your body has to displace a little bit of fluid with creatine. It needs to. So be prepared for that. And some sources of creatine, like the creatinine version, doesn't associate as much water, but most of them do. And I think creatine monohydrate, which is the basic form of creatine, is still by far the cheapest and easiest and the kingpin of all of creatine. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, for people that are working out, or athletes, or people that are bodybuilding, what do you usually like for recovery supplements or vitamins, or a post workout stuff? What's some of the stuff you usually recommend or do?
Well, the best thing for recovery is keep your hormone levels optimal and keep your diet optimal. Yeah. So recovery is all about what it needs to recover. Your body has a recovery system that is paramount to none. So the only way, all we do is influence it. So all the steroids, all that stuff, all the drugs people use, those things just enhance recovery. They do a few other things too, but mostly they're really influencing the recovery piece. So they're just recovering faster and more efficiently. And it's partitioning nutrients in ways that allow your body to build tissue faster. So, but if you don't, aside from that, I would say, like I said, taking the magnesium and boron and zinc at night, that helps with male health. It also helps, been shown in those to increase testosterone levels. So when you can do those things, that will help. Having good sleeping patterns, standard sleeping patterns of a minimum of 8 hours a night of good restful sleep is probably one of the most profound and powerful things for anti-aging and for recovery from the gym. But most people don't give it enough credit. They just think, if I can wake do stuff, I'm okay. No, that doesn't mean that. That's like if I could start my car, it's okay. No, you and I know that could be shit going wrong in there. I don't know unless somebody looks at it.
Yeah.
Or worse, it breaks. Because, before your car broke, it worked, right?
Yeah.
So same thing happened to our bodies. We can't always see the things that are going wrong. So
yeah.
did that answer your question?
Oh yeah. No, I just throwing things out there. I know that people asked or wanted to know about. But yeah, I mean, it's extremely helpful. The sleep stuff, man, that keeps coming up. I keep hearing more and more about, I know there's a lot more studies going on now about the importance of sleep. And that's something I'm like really freaking jealous of, man. Like I can't, like, even if I try, like even when I try, like my body just naturally wakes up at like 6 hours the most. Like, and I'm up and I'm fine, but it's just like, I was like, man, I wish I could get, like, even when I have the opportunity to get extra hours, I just can't do it. Like I just can't fall back asleep. It's bizarre. I don't know if this.
What do you mean? So you,
like if I go to bed around 12 or 1 in the morning, right? Like, like that's a lot of times that's when I'm done working or doing whatever, like, and just decompressing. I go to bed, usually between like 12 and 1. I'm still up at 7, even if I could sleep till 8 or 9, like I just can't sleep late. Like I can't sleep past 6 hours. Like my body just naturally wakes up. Like I like wish I could get 8, you know what I mean? Cause I know it's important to do. That's all I meant.
I would ask can you go to bed earlier?
I could try. Yeah. I have to figure out a way to quiet my mind before that, but and I know that gets more into the mindfulness stuff or the other end of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say that I would try inching it.
Yeah.
30 minutes earlier and then an hour, then a couple weeks later, an hour. Once you've mastered it, then you move it up another 30 minutes, just until you hit about 7.5, 8 hours.
Yeah.
So that you get really true, because it's the restful sleep. There's like I think 9 different levels of sleep that we cycle throughout the night over and over again, right? Yeah. And these lower levels of sleep, or this REM sleep, that's super, super important for people like you and me who work out, because that's where all the restorative sleep is. And it's only about 2 hours total in the night. It's not even the whole night. It's just most of our sleep at night isn't even that deep restful sleep. It's just these lighter forms of sleep, but we need them all. And so if we're not getting some of those lower levels, because we don't go into those lower levels of sleep and then come out and then wake up, we're cycling up and down through them all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so when we do this, then we don't recover very well if we don't. But when we do, when we're able to, these lower levels of sleep really, really drive all the deep restorative work that goes on in the body. It's resetting hormones, helping our bodies rebalance themselves on these kinds of things. And a lot of people have problems because they don't do that, and then they gain weight, or their hormones are off, and it's because they just aren't resetting their systems. Their eating windows are too long in the day, their sleeping windows are too short, and their body is essentially walking around stressed without them really knowing it. And it's just because of the way they live.
Yeah,
it's okay. It won't kill you right away.
When you said their eating intervals are too long, are you a proponent of like intermittent fasting?
Absolutely. We're designed to eat like that. We're designed to have 12 to 14 hour times, 12 to 14 hour period of time where we eat and where we fast. So we're not designed to eat all the hours that we're up. We're technically supposed to be foraging and hunting for our food, and that takes most of the time.
Yeah.
And then we're designed to go to bed and to go to sleep when it gets dark. We run on a circadian rhythm. This rhythm is based on the movement of the sun and the moon, right? Like when it's daylight, we want to be up. When it's dark, we want to go down. And so when we don't follow this, sometimes it can be a little troublesome for our bodies. It's just more natural for our bodies to be this way. But our bodies will adapt. So if you live another way, it doesn't mean you can't live that way. But you still need some good, substantial restorative sleep, and you should probably still have some downtime, a significant downtime for the digestive system.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's common sense. I mean, I don't know. I know everyone's different, but if I eat and then go to bed, it doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? I like to go to bed fairly I don't know, like having been fairly digested from like, I don't like to eat after like 6 if I can avoid it,
well, count the hours you're eating and count the hours you're not eating. That's more, don't go by the clock.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. So what do you think of like a feeding window, like 6 to 8 hours?
It's more than enough time, but I usually give my athletes 10 to 12 hours.
10 to 12. Okay, cool.
And I give myself 12.
Yeah. Just curious. Yeah. I mean, I know it's stuff that, people are interested in. It's good to kind of get out there. I mean, the vitamin stuff and all that, just, we're living in a weird, wacky day and age where, common sense, things that your body needs, aren't touted in public health messages, and other things are. And it's important to get this stuff out,
Yeah, I think we live in a society that really wants quick fixes.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it works. It works. Our bodies. I mean, there are some quick fixes.
Yeah.
But they're not. But when it comes to our bodies, we really need our bodies really respond to our lifestyle. What are we doing over and over and over? You know what I mean? And that's what's going to impact us the most, if that makes sense. And I think it's important for people to understand that, especially when we're talking about COVID and about being healthy and about what's the best area to focus on. Well, the best area, it's allowing our bodies to actually have the proper responses, right? Like, we're supposed to encounter pathogens. We're supposed to encounter things.
Dude, sorry,
but I'm saying
you cut out for a second. Sorry, you'd cut. The last thing I heard you say was we're supposed to encounter pathogens, and then it cut out for a second.
Yeah, we're supposed to encounter all these things in life. But what I'm not saying is to go get COVID, or that's a good thing. No, but I'm saying that we're supposed to encounter these things, and because we encounter them, we become stronger because of it. And that's the natural state of affairs. So, but our immune systems overcome these things, and it's how we evolve and adapt and survive as a species. I have my own personal opinions about vaccines and stuff like that, but when it comes to this lifestyle stuff, the most important thing for us to really focus on is doing those things in our life that allow us for our bodies to respond in the most healthy ways, allowing our bodies to do this. So eating healthy, doing, being physical, getting activity and exercise in, taking our vitamins, all these kinds of things. These are vitally important to making sure that our bodies are functioning correctly. And I think I don't know if the dialogue has been, that we've talked about that enough.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Like, I think we've talked a lot about vaccines, and we talked a lot about wearing masks, and these are all nice things to do as well. But they're not native to who we really, really are. They're not. I mean, the best way for me to keep my family safe is for me to keep them healthy.
Yeah,
that's the best thing. And the best way I know how to do that is daily exercise, good diet, and of course, working on things like mindfulness as well. Because if your body, mind, body, spirit, you got to do all three. So this is my approach, and it works. So I push it, and I also instruct it with my family.
Oh yeah, man. That's awesome. I'm trying to be a little respectful of your time. We're pretty much at 2 hours here, man, on the phone. So it's a good one, man. Is it? And down the road, would love to have you on again, or even if, like you said earlier, if you want to pop in on one of the M4 roundtables, anytime, man. But where can people get in touch with you or find out more about what you got going on? Because I know you got a ton going on, man, and I'm sure people are going to be interested in finding out more. And I'll put all this in the show notes too. So so if you. Oh
yeah, sure. Well, if you're a competitor, you'll see me at shows and stuff, of course. But for everybody else, you can see me I'm on all the social media stuff. So you can get me on Twitter or on Instagram at Tad the Diet Coach. I came or on Facebook, Tad Inoue. My last name is Inoue, and so I go by that too. But usually, most people just refer to me as Tad the Diet Coach, and so I've been known by that moniker for like 20 years. So
yeah.
so that's what I use.
Yeah, it's pretty tried and true. So if you type in Tad the Diet Coach on Google, I'm sure you'll come up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I come up. Usually, if you search Tad on Instagram, I'm the first dude that pops up.
Oh, there you go, man. Well, that's right, because you're OG in the internet world, so you got it on lock.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but anybody can reach out to me or my website, tadthedietcoach.com. Easy.
Well, hell yeah, man. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been awesome and extremely helpful for people, I'm sure. And I'm sure you'll, hopefully some people reach out and get some needed help. You know what I mean? And I think this stuff, just sometimes like hearing this stuff on a podcast gets people to kind of like shake out of their regular routine and start thinking about things a little more. And that's all we want to do, get you thinking a little bit more and doing something better for yourself.
And I would tell people, especially for those people who like just want to be a little healthier, they just do one thing.
Hello? Oh, you cut out again. So this is probably important. Oh, sorry, man. I don't mean to cut you off, but you cut out for a second. The last thing I heard, and it's probably an important thing you said, for people looking to be a little healthier, if they want to do one thing, and then it cut out right there. So if you could just repeat what it was.
Yeah, I was saying that if for people who just want to be healthier and want to do something to further themselves along, then choose one small thing that you can implement, that you can implement, like drinking more water or like cutting out soda or whatever it is that you think that's good, that will be healthy for you to do. One small thing that you could easily do, and repeat it every day for a couple of weeks until you get it down. It usually takes about 20 days to form a habit, something like that. And then move on to the next thing. And then by the time, if you do that and just implemented one thing every month and maintained it every month and kept it, and then did one more thing the next month. So by the end of the year, you're doing 12 things that are different. But from one year to the next, you'll be in two radically different places physically. Yeah. Two radically different places.
Probably mentally too.
Absolutely. You'll feel an encouragement from within. What you'll feel is your own sense of power. Because you did it. You, through your own actions, through your own intention, you changed something and it made a difference. And you saw it and you felt it. And that's the most important thing, that you see it and you feel it. And that gives us this sense of power, because we all have it. But some of us feel it and some of us don't. And the reason why we don't is because we're not highlighting when we are control. We're not highlighting those things that we're actually affecting in our lives in positive ways.
Yeah. So. Well, man, that was great. I'm going to, and Tad, thanks so much for coming on today. I'm going to shut this off, but I'm not going to hang up. So just hold up 1 second.
Okay.